And another beautiful morning on the absolutely gorgeous Gold Coast. What a gift to be alive. Today I want to have a little yarn about that naughty little emotion called anger, and what some people can do to pick themselves up before they start going into that anger, that rage, that feeling that just completely overrides people when they haven't been taught any other skills to manage anger. More so for males, but there's a lot of females out there these days that are angry also. And it is exactly the same process. How to cope. There's no difference in gender with the ways to overcome this emotion, and to be more specific, the ways to manage it so you can tame it down and not feel guilty or feel like you've done the wrong thing when you know what I'm saying, when you've actually gone into that angry rage. I'll just give you a little bit of a background on anger to my understanding and how I cope with anger in my life. Once upon a time, I was a very angry person. I used to blame everybody for the anger until I landed in a rehabilitation centre, and I was in a group. And the facilitator in the group was asking the residents how they felt about a certain topic he was talking about. And nobody had really ever asked me my opinion or my feelings on things much other than this day that I can remember. I was always, in my heart, made fun of, laughed at. People used to say things to me that I didn't like. Nobody ever made me aware that I had value to talk about what I thought and felt, and and somebody was going to be interested to listen to that. And when I was asked the question on the topic that the facilitator was talking about, I said how I felt was I'd feel angry if I was in that situation that he was describing. And then he said, "Do you know, Dean, feeling angry is okay?" And I was taken back by that because I didn't like to feel anger. But there was a double-edged sword there. I didn't like to feel anger, but I used anger to get what I wanted and to push through in my life in managing things such as relationships at times. If I wanted something, I could go into anger. If I wanted to show power, I could go into anger. If I wanted to be a person that didn't want to feel inadequate in given situations or uncomfortable, I could go into anger. So anger got people thinking when I went into anger, and people got scared. And that gave me a form of control. But that was not a good way to deal with interactions with other human beings. People were scared of me, they felt threatened by me, they didn't trust me because of the fear that they felt. It wasn't good, and people that are angry will be able to relate to exactly what I'm saying. Even if it wasn't to the extreme that I'm talking about, just passive anger can have a devastating effect on your life. So when he made me aware that it was okay to feel this anger, there was some kind of, okay, my ears pricked up. I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then he said, you know, Dean, that anger is a second reaction. And I said, enlighten me on that. What do you mean, a second reaction? He said, it usually comes from hurt, or usually comes from some other pain that you're feeling, and you go into that anger to cope. It's a coping mechanism. And I didn't realise that, nor had anybody ever said to me that behind my anger and behind everyone's anger is a form of pain, a form of struggle, something inadequate that we have not found in our lives, or we can't get comfortable being in. So we go to anger. And he started asking me about my childhood, and he was asking me about the boys' homes I was in, and the fights that I got in the boys' homes, and what I did when those people were very mean and hurt my feelings in the boys' home, calling me names, calling me white legs, or you ugly bastard, or you were pulled out of the abortion bucket. Like, I used to just go into a rage when certain kids said these things to me. But there was a lot of other things other than that that the officers used to say to me, like belittle me, you tell me I wasn't good enough, I was hopeless, I was an idiot, I was a goose, I was a fool, and that made me angry. But I kind of believed that, so that also put me in a position where it really affected my self-esteem. But when I started exploring with this facilitator, that this anger that I had, and I might add that it was something that got worse as a progression in my life. So it was little things that happened that got me more angry in the end. I just didn't wake up one day as a child, as nobody does, and we become angry. That's completely not true. You're not born angry. So I think it's important to remember that, because if you got into it through a process, you can get out of it. You can get out of anger. If you got into it that way through little steps, and it was conditioned, it wasn't genetic, it was conditioned, you can condition yourself out of it with some of the principles that, I don't know if there was any help to you, that I used that got me to manage it better. And ultimately I got out of it, but it took a long time. But becoming aware of this pain behind it, it helped me enormously. Because I could start looking at something other than getting angry. I started asking questions. Well, why am I angry? Where does this come from? Was there a time I can remember when I wasn't angry? Look at my lifestyle. Look what I've done. Look how I've lived. Look at the situations I've put myself in. These are the questions I was asking, and lots of antisocial behaviour, recidivism, but being locked up a lot, boys' homes, jails, getting aggressive and fighting people because they were hurting my feelings. There's a lot of stuff here that went to the anger. But when I went and started looking at the pain, started looking at how hurt I've been, how scared I've been, how inadequate I've been, how I've been fearful of living in prisons and boys' homes all my life, how I've been scared of people, how I've been scared of the way I've lived my life through worried about police and worry about people attacking me with weapons and getting shot. Other violence that I was surrounded with every single day of my life, living a life of defending myself and protecting myself. And ultimately it went to anger. And, as my life evolved in institutions and boys' homes, I got more angrier and I got more frustrated because nobody other than this facilitator said, well, what's behind it? And then I started exploring what was behind it, and then I started dealing with that. I started dealing with my fears. I started dealing with my abuse. I started dealing with the neglect. I started dealing with how I felt in my home life. I started dealing with how I felt with my peers, how I felt in certain given situations with my interactions with my peers, with things they said to me, how they acted towards me, how I acted towards them. So when I started going there, that's when I started identifying my anger. But hey, my anger didn't just disappear overnight just because I started going to my feelings and pinpointing where this anger came from. But I'll tell you one thing, it sure as hell helped. And it allowed me to focus when I got, like if I did get angry in life, well, I would just start asking questions. Okay, well, what part did I have to play in that anger? Why was I angry? How can I relate this anger now? I'm aware that I'm getting angry. How can I relate that to fixing myself? What part did I have to play in it? Like, why can't I sit with that wound in my soul? Talk about the wound in the soul. Talk about how sensitive that is. Talk about how fragile I am. Talk about, the stuff that, that's in children. That too is in us as adults. We've got to get back to that when we're in an angry mode, because when we can get back to that, that's when we can start healing. But as I said, it didn't happen overnight. But as soon as I realised where I had to look, I was confident that I had the courage to keep being motivated to talk about it and stay motivated to do something about it instead of blaming people for it all the time. I used to blame people all the time for this anger. So understand that anger is not who you truly are. Anger is the end result of pain, struggle, hardship, fear. That's where the anger stems from. And if you can refocus, instead of focusing on the anger, if you can refocus that and go to your feelings and your emotions, then that anger will start demising somewhat. You'll start to get a grip on why you are angry. But if you don't go to the pain, and if you're not motivated to go to the pain, or if you haven't got the courage to go to the pain, I strongly suggest that you should get to know what your true courage is, and it's going to those places. You must go to those places to fix your problems in life. If you don't go there, you're not going to fix anger. And anger is only one issue that we have as human beings. So get motivated to look at your core wounds. And that's where you'll be able to marry up where this anger comes from. And when you know that, you can start dealing with that stuff. And hopefully you'll be able to stay there and keep dealing with it by taking accountability for your pain and your struggle. And then you'll be able to watch anger come down. Take into account, how long has it taken you to get to your anger? Maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years. You're going to have to give yourself at least 10 or 15 to come back if it's 40. But hey, let's start the process of it. When you see it, let's start the process of it. So it's going to take you a while to come back down where you get to a peaceful place where you don't go into anger. But if you don't start at that pain, you're never going to bring it down until you're probably way too old. And hey, let's not wait to that. Let's get to the shit now. Let's deal with it now. So that's my journey on anger. And there's a heap of shit out there on YouTube. There's a heap of stuff out there with counsellors and the internet to look at anger and to explore your anger. And yeah, if you put the hard work in and the motivation in, your life will be better for it in the long run. You will be rewarded for your effort. That goes without saying. It's like the yin and the yang. It's like day turning to night. It's like what goes up must come down. It's the same with your effort in looking at yourself. You take care now. You have a great day. And as I always say, God bless us all.